Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where we traverse the vast landscape of technology, drawing insights from the brightest minds in the industry and have a little fun along the way. And today I'm thrilled to introduce a trailblazer in the fintech sector. Her name is Monika, and she is the co-CEO of Enfuce. And if you do notice any sound drops in our conversation today, it's because my guest was incredibly busy and found herself in that unfortunate situation of having to shoot to another important meeting on the other side of town. And rather than cancel our interview, my guest graciously offered to make the most of the little time that we had by talking and walking, West Wing style. We started in the hotel, continued in the cab on our way to the next meeting. And I loved every minute of it. An incredibly cool lady. And I hope you enjoy this one as much as I did, because Enfuce's groundbreaking step of fully transitioning card issuing to the cloud and securing a multitude of accolades along the way, it's clear that they're rapidly emerging as a leader in Europe's payment processing arena. And additionally, the co-CEO model, that's something to talk about too. It's a rarity in business, but it has been pivotal in Enfuce's success story, so I want to learn more about that. And hopefully we'll also have time to unpack Enfuce's journey and delve into the importance of female representation in tech leadership roles within the fintech world, a topic that again needs a lot more spotlight. So let's do just that. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Finland, where you can join me and Monika in conversation today. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yes, I'll try to do the short version. So as I'm 48 years young or old, depending on who you ask, being around the block. So I'm Monika Liikamaa, the co-founder and co-CEO of Enfuce. I've been part of building Enfuce as an issuer processor for the past 7 years. And then, as I said, been around some time, I actually used to be a developer in the last millennium, and then worked in the telco industry until in 2006 started building banks and financial institutions, and been doing that ever since. That's short. And of course, I am a happy and stressed mother of 4. Been with my husband for the past 29 years, so he's finally starting to get to a place where I want him to be. But that's in short.
Absolutely love it. And obviously today, Enfuce is one of Europe's leading payment processors. But I'd love to take you back in time. Can you tell me a little bit more about the story of the company, the problems you set out to solve, and maybe a few challenges and milestones along the way?
Yeah, I think challenges and milestones, we have this saying that shit hits the fan every day. Enfuce was founded in 2016 simply because I had just left my previous job where I had been building an issuer processor for a Nordic player called Crosby Banking Solution, and been working with an amazing team. But the reason why I left was that the ambition level was too small. Like I want to do things that matter. I want to change the world for the better. And they wanted to focus on the Nordic, which I felt it was a little bit boring. So I quit my job, and I told my colleague to be co-founder Denise that one day we'll work together again. That day came a bit faster than either of us expected. And in February 2016, I was doing a gig at a very traditional bank, and feeling so frustrated again about all the shitty processor legacy players, that everything cost a lot of money, like humongous amounts of money, and took horrifically long time, which meant that customers couldn't get good services fast. So I actually was presented with a question that would I want to become a CEO of a neobank? And I said, no, I don't. I'm not fit for one place. I want to do many things. But that also, when I asked that, are you going to run your infrastructure? And they said that they are going into an RFP. And that's when I just said, like, hey, is it okay if I make a proposal? And after that call, I called Denise and I asked her, should we? And she said, yes, And then she asked, what? And I said, shouldn't we just build an easier processor that is better, faster, and globally scalable? And that is how it all started, with actually that phone call. And then what we did is we decided to start building Enfuce. And since we didn't have money and we wanted to scale globally, and as I was an old banker and telco person, I also knew that running on-prem is really costly and it's pretty region limited. And back then, which seems like I am talking about last century, but a public cloud, when it came to critical infrastructure, wasn't used. So no bank, no processor had ever put the issuance of money in a public cloud. So I called then two of my other former colleagues, and I asked the guys that, hey, what if we would build the world's best, fastest, and globally scalable processor? How would we do it? And then they said, public cloud. And I was like, yeah, no bank will ever buy. And then they were like, but that's the only way to scale and build a high availability infrastructure. And I said, okay, fuck it, let's do it. And that's when I started negotiating with AWS and with Microsoft. And that's how we actually became the first one in the world to put the payment issuing in a public cloud and become FSA, or what you call FCA, so Financial Supervisory Authority, approved us as we became an issuer processor. So that's in short what happened. And of course that means that those two, or the biggest decision that has carried us through until this was that we decided from day one to go global, and from day one to make it priority to be the best and to be the fastest and the best scalability. And I think that has been pivotal because that has guided all the technical decisions that we have made. And as such, we have a forefront with a high availability infrastructure like no others. And as such, today, we process over 16 million end customers' payments on a daily basis.
Wow, what an incredible journey you have been on there. And being the first in the world to move card issuing to the cloud, phenomenal achievement. And I'm curious, since that you've done that, how has it continued to impact your business model? Because it sounds like there was no going back from that moment.
Yeah, I think the key was capacity. And what that means is like pay for what you do. So again, as an old telco person running stuff on-prem, you always have to have a lot of capacity for the peak hours. And as I also used to be a bank CIO in one of the biggest retail banks in Finland, and we had 3 million customers, but they were active, really active two days a month, which meant that I needed to have infrastructure to support those 2 days, and then it was later the rest. So going cloud, actually paying for what you use, enabled us to also change the business model. So not just the ability to, from a capacity-wise, to scale indefinitely, but and also region independent, but also the fact that we could change the business model more for this type of pay what you use, so activity-based fees. And that's been the track we've been on ever since. And of course, that impacts a lot on the gross margin. So if you look at us, maybe compared to competitors like Marqeta, etc., you can really say that the gross margin is different. I run around 75% gross margin, and they are around 40 plus. And that's because they need to invest so much more in capacity as they are not yet, if ever, cloud native.
And before you came on the podcast today, I was also reading about Enfuce's turnkey card as a service model. Can you tell me more about that and how that's helping to contribute to making you guys a one-stop shop for organizations that want to issue cards to their user bases?
Yes. So again, as we were born to really help banks, as we were all bankers, both me and Denise, So that's kind of what the problem we were about to solve and solve it globally and scale so that we could get better services. I think the only thing that we didn't realize enough, fortunately, was that banks are shit scared of being first. So they were like, yeah, want to talk to us, want to discuss with us, but don't have the balls to buy from us. Because no bank wants to be first, and there's always this excuse about compliance, which meant that in order for us to actually survive and strive, as the two first years as old bankers, we actually made a profit and paid dividends before we went into the scaling business. We needed to focus on a different segment of customers. So really looking into service players that want to add payment to their processes or their business, but don't want to become a bank. And as such, we looked into it. So like, what are all the features, functionality, services for us to offer a turnkey solution? And then we realized that it's everything from fraud prevention, dispute management, of course, the processing, the 3DS, etc., all the tokenization, Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, but then also adding on licenses. So actually regulatory compliance through licenses. And we are actually an EMI licensed entity in Europe. So we are reporting to the Finnish supervisory authority, passported in all of EEA. And then we have partners for other regions, like, for example, UK. We partner up with Transact Payments Limited. We also do stuff with Monoweight. And then, of course, some of our customers are licensed entities themselves. But having the licenses also puts us on the same side of our customers, meaning we really know what compliance means, and we really know how to make it happen. And with that capability, we can actually enable different kind of entities to issue cards. For example, for the Finnish government, we issue all their cards when it comes to social benefits cards, to the refugee cards, etc. And we have these different types of services that we can enable. Then, of course, we have customers that are banks themselves. So they hold the license, they report to the regulatory authority, but we are their major outsourcing service provider for the processing part. Yeah, and maybe just as an example, Rocker in Sweden, it's a spin-off of Lendo, so they wanted to start issuing cards and become the everyday, let's say, bank, neobank. And in the early days, they were focusing on bringing value to their customers, but they took everything from us. And now, when they have grown a lot, they have reached a critical mass. And in order for them to be able to do more services like take credit risk, etc., they have added on different types of licenses. So now they are also an EMI themselves and a credit institute. So that means, but they still process. So all the cards and the feature functionality, that's us. But we have enabled them also to really be flexible in their own business and how it evolves. And that's what the turnkey, one-stop shop means. So depending on who you are, where you are at in your business, you can scale. And then we have, like now, talking to some card manufacturers, we have like this EV charging station. Anyone where payment would be a value add can then buy it as a service from us.
Now, I was also reading about your partnership with Featurespace and how that led to the development of the ARIC Risk Hub. Can you tell me more about this anti-money laundering technology and how that's helped enhance your services too?
Yes. Well, as what we do is money. Yeah. We process money in different formats. And of course, the world is full with people who want to steal that data. And also a lot of misuse. I think people are really naive in understanding how much, shit happens when it comes to payments and fraud. We knew already, as we're, again, the old bankers, we knew that we need to protect ourselves. And we also knew that we are really good at processing. We know issuing the compliance, but we need the best tech and engine to fight the fraud. And that's how think it's multiple years ago, actually. We've been early on partnering up with Featurespace, as their core competence is really to nail the fight against fraud, whether it be money laundering, terrorist financing, or in general fraud prevention. And that's how we then incorporated rarity, the fraud engine built by Featurespace, and we use that as part of our monitoring. So all the transactions that flow in and out of Enfuce processing are flowing also through the rarity engine, so that we really know what's happening. We can in real time react, block stuff, and do a lot of automation. So that's how we collaborate with the Featurespace, and the more volume we get, of course, the better the tool becomes, that it's a learning tool, and it has incorporated different functionalities, whether it's in machine learning, and of course now the latest and greatest when you're all putting in more AI features to really nail patterns and deviations in behavior.
And I think we should also highlight that you have been recognised by major programs, from the Visa Fintech Fast Track program, MasterCard Lighthouse Development program. So what do these recognitions mean to you at Enfuce, and have they influenced your journey at all?
Yes, of course. Again, as we talked about money, it's all about credibility. I think for us, it's a really good thing to be born out of the Nordics and born of Finland. And like there is this joke that we Finns are like the most compliant people in the world, and we comply even before things are regulated. And if you see us walking, crossing the street, and there is a red light and there is no cars, we'll wait for the green light. So it's a good thing. Sometimes it's like taking it a bit too far, but that of course gives us credibility. Being supervised by the Finnish supervisory authority is a good testament to us being at par and beyond. But then of course adding both the schemes, Visa and MasterCard, it is really important, and of course it gives us a label that we know what we're doing, but it also gives the credibility to our customers that there are big entities involved in the business that we run, and that we do it by the book and actually beyond.
And I'm curious, as a co-CEO, how does your leadership style differ from, let's say, that traditional single CEO model? And has this unique leadership structure, has that helped contribute to the success there?
It's the single biggest key to success.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big things is that, we founded Enfuce in 2016 when the Fintech industry was just about evolving. I had never heard about GSIs or stuff like that. A banker, you need money, you go to the bank. So our first, let's say, growth equity was a bank loan, and that's how we do it. So seeing that evolution, and then sitting there when COVID hits, everything goes 100% remote. And then I remember I told Denise that if we now go bust, then I need to be able to be merciful to us and say we did everything right, but in the end it wasn't enough. And yet we grew, because we had come to a situation where we had made a couple of really big clients, like the backbone. They weren't in that sense impacted that much. And then now, of course, understanding geographically where we sit, we have 1,300 and some kilometers of joint border with Russia. So for us, when Russia attacked Ukraine, it was something that we had expected for the last 80 years, but still to really, get with it and make sure that everything is running, and realizing that people don't know Europe geography very well. But all of that, being alone, single CEO, responsible for everything, I do think that I wouldn't have made it. I think someday it would have been too much. But now, when there's two of us, we can share all the challenges. We can share, of course, also all the joys. which means that I do think that we are much more powerful together. So 1 + 1 is much more than 2. And of course, you know that one woman is like 10 guys, so it's like 20 of us. Well, anyways, but I think that's really one of the pivotal things. And of course, we have been working together before we founded Enfuce. So we share the same values, but the thing that makes us different is that we actually did the test also. So I am more this visionary, like go big or go home person. And then it's like, yeah, let's fucking do it. And this is how we do it. So she's more the concretizer. Having that also together enables us to go high and low. So we can go on a very high scenario, strategy work, and then go down to execution. But in the end of the day, co-CEO is all about sharing the burden and sharing also the happiness. So, and I think from a mental perspective, that's really important.
And it's so refreshing to hear, because there is this well-documented gender imbalance throughout the industry. And one of the things that shines out for me is not only having a co-CEO, but you've achieved great success under the leadership of 2 female co-CEOs. So I've got to ask, how do you view the role of diversity in fostering things like innovation and growth throughout the fintech industry?
It's been a bit challenging because as the industry is so male-dominated, which means that it is always easier to hire things that you recognize, to promote stuff that you recognize. Of course, both me and Denise are very active in various parts, in various organizations, in various ages to support not just boys and men, but really also lift up of women, girls, and in general diversity. And I do think that if you would come to Enfuce, people might have like, yeah, but how diverse, like, what are we actually doing? Because for us, it's such a day-to-day job focused on the ESG, for example, the environment, social, the governance, etc., that people who have been working for us for a longer time, they probably don't even think about how different it is somewhere else. But it is really important. And I think in general, the world becomes a better place when different people come together. It isn't easy, but nothing great has ever been achieved in an easy way. And I think that's maybe a little bit problem today, that the past, let's say 10 years before this recession now, has been a bit too easy. There's been injected money to the left and to right. I mean, like the most crazy ideas or then the most, like, just much viable ideas have been injected with money which has skewed a bit things. But I think I'm really happy what we can see now also in the investor side, that there are coming this focus on diversity, so also putting money into those objectives, because talking about things doesn't change shit. Doing is what matters.
100% with you there. We began the podcast talking about the company's origin story, but now as we come full circle, I want to look to the future. What are your plans for Enfuce's expansion, and how do you plan to continue innovating and maintaining your competitive edge in this rapidly evolving fintech space?
Yeah, I think the good news is this, and I am a fan of Simon Sinek, so it's the infinite game. Yeah. There is no one competitor. There is no one winner takes it all. I mean, like, we want to enable stuff that matters, and that's why we're doing sometimes projects that some might think are a bit like, well, why are you doing? Like the government program. We did the first aid card with Visa, where we issued in 6 weeks. I got a phone call from Visa, and they're like, hey, we want to help the Red Cross to welcome place in France to issue relief funds to Ukrainians. And we know that it's end of November, but we needed to get it done before Christmas. Can you do it? I said, yeah, fuck, you can do it. Of course we did. And then we did. So those are the things we want to do, because by showcasing that you can, it should inspire others also to do it. So looking at where are we going as a company, well, we will focus on striving to be the best, because I don't like mediocre, that's boring. and then, of course, expanding outside of Europe. Before the financial crisis, that was, of course, also highly initiated by Russia attacking Ukraine and all the things that happened afterwards and still happening. We decided not to go beyond Europe, but really strengthening the foothold here. But of course, we hope, like everyone else, that the war ends really soon. We get peace in Europe, and of course, what we are working on is looking to expand outside of Europe. As I said, we want to be a global processor. We are that technically. We have customers outside of Europe, but really to get a foothold and be a relevant option is something that we're looking to do in the next few years.
Exciting times ahead, and I can't thank you enough for joining me on the podcast today. For anyone listening, just wants to find out more information about anything we talked about, find out more information about Enfuce, contact your team, etc. Where would you like to point everyone listening?
Well, I do have to say that what we did is we did put a lot of effort into really making Enfuce.com the place to be. So as we're awesome in tech, we're awesome in compliance, but we really suck at marketing. So we'd also invested a lot, and we're fortunate enough to secure, as our CMO Vanessa came from Celonis. So an interesting combination of half Greek, half German, and which means that it actually works really well with us Finns. So going to our homepage, you will find anything and everything you need through there. And if you have any questions, just reach out, and some from our team will definitely pick up and help you walk through. And I think for us, we like to do different kinds of stuff. So if you have a use case you're pondering, reach out and let's sit down and help you. And if we are a fit, we'll tell you. If you're not, we'll tell you that as well. And if we know someone else that would be a better fit for whatever reason, then we'll point you in the right direction. Because I really believe that when we don't kind of push it around and we focus on helping, that's how we will be part of the infinite game.
Absolutely love it. I love the no BS approach that you have there. And also, we've talked about the technology and the work that you're doing, all phenomenal, and the real world problems that you're solving. But I think also experiencing great success with this co-CEO model, which is almost unheard of in the fintech industry. You deserve so much kudos on how it's turned Enfuce into this pioneering issuer processing powerhouse. Absolutely phenomenal. And on top of that, I know how busy you are. You've been sat down today in a hotel room and now in a cab and still continuing to talk to me. So just thank you so much for taking the time to take this call and share your story. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you because it's always hard for us Finns to take the feedback, especially positive feedback. It's challenging, but I love it. So please don't stop. And thank you for your time, because of course I love talking about things I know a lot about, and whether it be good and bad, it's been a learning journey, and it's not easy. But I think that's what makes it worth it. So this is actually the longest I have ever worked at one single place. Usually my husband said that I usually change jobs within 4 to 5 years, because that's pretty much the time it took, like from when I started to getting to where I could get it to. But, with Enfuce, we're only getting started. I mean, we're only in the early days of the things that we can become. And I am, as you also pointed out, really excited to see where this can lead, and also massively grateful for the people who have joined in. And yeah, you said no BS. Yep, that's true. That's how we do it. And we actually have a zero ask policy. But having said that, of course, it's not always easy to get feedback as we are used to giving it within. So again, culture. I remember when my early days when I started, I read this, Peter Drucker, like culture is strategy for breakfast, and I really have learned the hard way that that's exactly how it is. So being part of understanding how to listen to people, understand their cultural background, and then, of course, making them also understand me. It's an everyday job, but I think respect and honesty, those are the best.
And there you have it, a deep dive into the fintech world, unravelling the strategies, innovations and leadership insights from Monika from Enfuce today. And from the strategic decision to move card issuing to the cloud to the unwavering commitment to security and fraud prevention, it's evident to me that Enfuce is truly at the forefront of fintech innovation. And moreover, I think our conversation about gender dynamics and leadership in this industry certainly serves as a poignant reminder of the long road ahead to achieve a balanced representation. But again, today, Monika's passion, dedication, forward-thinking approach is nothing short of inspirational. And as we do anticipate the future, I think Enfuce's trajectory paints a very bright picture for fintech. So I'm going to be keenly watching their steps. Thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in today. And remember, check out the show notes for more details about Enfuce and ways to connect with Monika and her team. And if you've got any questions, email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn or any social channel, just at Neil C. Hughes. But until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, keep pushing those boundaries in the tech industry. Thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.